All right, friends, welcome. It is day 3 of week 1. Can you believe it? You only have 3 more weeks until you graduate. That's crazy. You guys are almost done. You're almost there. Um, August 15th. Today's my mom's birthday, so happy birthday, Mom. You did it. A little bit of housekeeping. You've got some discussion questions. Again, all of those are open for the entire course. Don't let this be the thing that is preventing you from finishing this course in this entire program. Just go knock them out. Like I opened them all. So just go knock those out this weekend, but make sure you get at least week 1 by Sunday. You have 1 core assignment. You look at the class calendar. You got 1 that is a solo project proposal. I've got 2 more. I went through, tried to finish them all out. Sorry for a little bit of delay. 24-hour turnaround is usually what I will do. So I think I'm still within that realm, but I've got 2 more I've got to grade unless a couple came in while we were in office hour. But your solo project proposal that is due, it was due tonight or due yesterday. It's really due Sunday. I just ask, that you give it over to me by end of day today or, by noon PST tomorrow, just so I can make sure that you are on the right track. Technically, the core assignment, zipping it up, doing the wireframe and everything, is due on Sunday. But just want to make sure that you guys are on the right track because I want to make sure there are certain criteria that you have to meet in order for you to graduate. So I want to make sure you guys are all good to go there. If you just submitted it, that's great. I will get it done, first thing in the morning or, I believe first thing in the morning. So that doesn't mean, what I will say is, as long as I sent you some questions and you see the criteria of like, it's got to have some CRUD, it's login and reg if you're Java. Just because I haven't approved it doesn't mean you can't get started with it. We can always adjust that and say, okay, just add in this or that. So don't think that you have to just wait on me to approve it. You can get started on it, and it's an approval process, right? To where I might say, hey, how are you planning on addressing, another object outside of a user that has CRUD? You go, oh yeah, this is how I'm doing it. Okay, great. You don't have to wait the 24 hours. So Jacob, see that you did that. Yeah, I don't know why you weren't in there, Jacob. I added you though. So you're right here on line 8. So I went ahead and added it. Yeah, these are locked. So the only ones that you can do, the only ones that you can do are these 3 right here. So nope, you're good, Jacob. You weren't on there. I noticed it earlier today when I went to go add in your submitted and approved, and you weren't in there for some reason. So if you don't find your name, just please feel free to email me. Email is by far the best way to get a hold of me. But feel free to email me and then I can adjust that. But nope, you weren't blind. It wasn't in there, so I fixed it. Cool. Oh, I'm gonna mute you there, PJ. Just as a reminder, please mute yourself if you're not talking. I love when you guys do talk and join in this, but just to make sure that people aren't.
You didn't get my resubmission?
Let's see. Oh, did you email it to me or did you submit it on the platform?
I resubmitted on the platform.
Oh, can you email that to me?
Okay.
Yeah, I was just going off the emails.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Cool. But that's your only core assignment. Now, something to think through is next week, while you're trying to finish up your assignment, you do have 2 core assignments, your arrays to do 1 and your strings to do 1. Somebody said it today. I can't remember who it was. Maybe it was Jennifer. But somebody was saying that they are doing, oh no, it's Brittany, trying to knock these out. So that way all of next week, all of their focus is on the core assignments. I think that's a great idea. If you've got a little bit of time this weekend or tonight or tomorrow, just knock out these algorithms. So that way you can spend all next week. We're going to be learning about singularly linked lists. It'll be a little bit of a challenge. It's fun though. And so that'll be brand new material for you guys. But don't let this be the thing that kind of gets you down. I know you have a lot on your plates. The discussion questions with core assignments, knock these out if you can. So that way you can just give all the time to your project. Next week, you're starting your group assignment or your group project signups. So those groups will be finalized on Thursday or Friday. So if you have somebody, then please feel free to put, to email me with those people and say, hey, we'd like to be a group. If not, do just like our friend Janine did, put your name. Again, then I'm gonna mute you. Again, guys, please get off mute or be on mute unless you are talking. Please, please, please do that.
It's
But
a Zoom feature now. When you join a meeting, you have to change it in settings. When you join a meeting, it automatically unmutes you.
oh, that's awful. I'll see if I can change the meeting to mute upon entering, because thanks Brittany for letting me know that. Cause I was wondering, I was like, why is everybody off mute? Okay, that's good to know. Okay, if you guys don't have a group, but you're like, hey, just put me in a group, put your name here, just like our friend Jacob is doing. First name, last name, your preferred stack, and then your strengths, what you really want to work on. And I'll try to do that accordingly and put people together, if they really like things, front end and making things pretty. So great, Janine, you might be partnered with somebody in Java that's great at back end, really likes that stuff. So cool. So make sure you guys do that. Next week, we'll finalize that. And if you look at the calendar, we will start with our group project week 3. First 2 lectures are just going to be solo project presentations. There's quite a few of you here. So we're going to run through, everybody's going to get 3 to 5 minutes, show us their project, tell us the good things, the hard things, and where you want to go next. And so you'll have those presentations. And then we have week 4 where we do group presentations, and then guys, we're done. You're okay, Ben, no worries. So very, 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 very fast. It's going to be here in no time. So make sure you keep it up with your core assignments. Great. Any questions on project proposals, core assignments, discussion questions before we jump into tonight's material?
Well, I just wanted to ask you a question that I sent you in DM earlier as well.
Mhm.
So I have it as a goal to do a React front end with a Python back end, but I've never done that before, and I'm
Yep.
not 100% sure that I'll be able to pull it off with the time I
Mhm.
have.
Mhm.
So could I have like full stack MERN as a backup plan?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And even if you've built a Python server and you just sort of, because that's pretty easy to build the index.html and kind of build out those views. You can do that as a backup plan. That's okay.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
I also thank you for reminding me. I reached out to Lee. He's updated that document, so now the videos are working. So it's
that's
the
awesome.
correct videos. So
Thank
thanks for the
you.
reminder. Yeah, of course.
Sure.
Cool. And looks like in the chat, there's a couple different ways that you can update your settings. Yeah, that's an L on Zoom for sure. So thanks for your patience, guys, and totally get it now. I was wondering, I was like, why is everybody just off mute all the time? So
I didn't even
on that.
notice until like I looked down and my mic's not crossed out, and I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, that's like my personal warfare. Yeah, it's crazy. Okay. I hate joining meetings and my mic's on. So yeah. So sorry for my frustration there. I didn't know that was not y'all's fault. So that's on me. Cool. Okay. Today we want to talk about OOP, and we're going to talk about classes. Really, we're going to build a class. We're going to build class methods, and we're just going to see how we can sort of build those out together. The reason is when we go into singly linked lists next week, we're going to start building classes of nodes, and we're going to be building out different pieces and how we're going to build out this entire data structure, and it uses OOP, object-oriented programming or class-based programming, right? And so we're going to build that today, just as today's a little bit more of a, I know this week I keep saying this is a refresher. It is a refresher of classes, so that way when we're getting into that with singular linked list next week, we are ready, we're prepared, and we can jump forward. Now, OOP, object-oriented programming, has 4 pillars of them. It has 4 real big pillars, and I've never been asked this. I've had friends and I've had students who have been asked this. But this, in an interview setting, they've been asked for somebody to ask, hey, what are the 4 pillars of OOP and can you explain them to me? So, here are our 4 pillars where we have abstraction, we have polymorphism, encapsulation, and inheritance. Can anybody tell me what abstraction is? Any ideas? Anybody want to take a guess about what abstraction is?
It's like developing classes so that various functions can be used in different places. Basically, it's to make stuff available across different parts of the thing, so you make them generalized.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Right. It's us making things available to people to use, either it be functions or methods, for people to use. But a big portion of this is our users don't have to understand what's going on under the hood in order to use our data, our server, our API, any of that, right? Think about when we are dealing with, I've got something like let x equal 1. And I've got something, oops. I've got a tool where I can say console.log. I'm just gonna say X, right? Console log is a method within, or log is a method of console, right? Within JavaScript that does something, i.e. we know that it's going to show whatever value of this variable. How does it work though? I have no idea, right? It doesn't show us that. We don't see how this works. It's all under the hood, but we're able to use this function. We're able to abstract. It's the way that people typically say is you don't need to be a mechanic in order to drive a car, right? People can drive the car. You don't have to understand how the engine works in order to use the car. Abstraction is sort of the same way when we're dealing with OOP. It's methodology that our users can use. They don't have to see or do the heavy lifting. They can abstract that out and they can use that tool. Thanks, Eric, for that first one. Can anybody understand before we do polymorphism, can we talk about encapsulation? What's encapsulation? Anybody have any idea?
Something inside of something.
Yeah. Don't trail exactly. Encapsulation is when we're dealing with a class, everything that's associated with that class is encapsulated within that class, right? If we're making a class of a animal, right? They can eat, they can walk, they can hunt, they can bark, or they can make a sound, I guess would be a better version. All of that is encapsulated in my animal class, right? And so it's available for others to use, to handle, to and it's all attached to that class itself. It's encapsulated within that class, right? We're keeping like methods, like values within this class, and it's associated with that. So that way I know when I'm dealing with something, it is associated to that class itself. It's encapsulated with that class. Now with that, we've got something called polymorphism. Very interesting word. Anybody understand what polymorphism is when we're dealing with OOP?
More than one thing, being able to take on more than one thing of different likes.
Yeah. Polymorphism is the ability for something to use something within my class, but maybe in a different way. I said make a sound. Let's say we have an animal class and we have a sound, right? My dog might sound like a bark, whereas if there's a cat, it might be a purr, or if there's a bird, it might be a chirp, right? You're using the same, you're still using methods or methodology from my class, but you can use it in a different way based off of the instance. If I've got a dog instance or I've got a cat instance of my animal, then I can use that in a different way, right? I can adjust that to where when it's a sound for a dog, I want them to bark, but when it's a cat, I want them to purr, right? But we're still using the sound method within my class. And the last one would be inheritance. Inheritance. My Java friends definitely probably know what inheritance is, but can anybody tell me or give an idea of inheritance?
that's have to do with like parent-child classes,
Yeah.
functions, something?
Absolutely. Let's even expand out. Thank you, Edwin. Let's even expand out this animal class. And instead of just having a dog instance, maybe I want my dog, I want there to be like a dog class as well. But instead of rewriting the same thing of, maybe there's a Boolean in my animal that has fur or, 4 legs or can fly, right? I don't have to redo that with my dog. I can just inherit from the animal class and say, hey, I've got a baseline here. Now I'm going to take that over and I'm going to inherit from the animal class. And then moving forward, I can, add the unique values for a dog class as well. So it's the ability to use something, just like you said, from like a parent class and inherit that and say, cool, I can use these values. And then I'm going to also change values and methods. And then I'm going to also change or add or adjust accordingly. So abstraction is the ability to use a method without understanding necessarily what is under the hood. Polymorphism is being able to take a value, especially one that maybe we inherit, and do something different with it, adjust it uniquely to our inheritance or our class. Encapsulation is assuring that all of the methods and the attributes associated to a class are encapsulated within that class. And then inheritance is saying, cool, I want to use some values from that class, but I also want to maybe make my own. So let's make a copy and take some values from that class, and then we'll add it and inherit that. And then we can, add in any more unique attributes if we want to do something different. So that's the 4 pillars of OOP. There's lots of stuff out there if you want to learn more about that. If you want to, there's different. Free Code Camp is an incredible resource. Here's a great article. I'll put this in the chat for you guys. You guys want to learn even more about that. But here are the 4 pillars of OOP. And again, it's just, you don't have to go into the nuances of it, but just understanding what they are in case, again, I've never been asked this, but we've had past students and I've had friends being asked, hey, what are the 4 pillars of OOP? And can you explain them? Give them from a high level. Just be aware of those is more of what I wanted to let you guys know. Yep. And there's Hans put in roadmap.sh at the very beginning of the course in our Discord. I put a article that was great. And in there, that's got a lot of resources in there. It has a lot of the roadmap.sh's or different links for that. So it's another great tool. So thanks, Hans, for putting that in the chat. Okay. So when we're dealing with classes, how do we even create a class? Anybody remember? This is old school. If you guys haven't taken JavaScript since WebFund, anybody remember? How do we create a class here? What should we create? What do you guys want to create today? Let's think about this. What anybody throw something out? What do we want to create? An animal? We want to create a pizza? We want to create a car?
Anything video game related.
Video game related.
Like
Yeah,
RPG, warrior, hunter. There we go. Let's do class system. Warrior,
Okay.
hunter, rogue.
Okay.
So start with character.
Contra.
Let's do one and then we can build off of that because I want to make sure that we're doing a whole bunch of stuff within just one. So let's create do we want to create a warrior, a mage? I don't know what the other ones might be, an elf.
Warriors are always the easiest.
Warriors. All right, let's do it. Okay. So we're going to say class warrior. Cool. And then let me get rid of some of the stuff. We have this thing called a constructor. Can anybody remember or tell me what a constructor does? In Python, it's like your dunder init.
It gives you the original starting stats, the starting information when you first compile it, use it.
Instantiate
There you go.
it.
There you go. Our constructor is what instantiates our actual object, right? Remember, a class is just an object, and instantiates or creates. It is the function that is run when we call a class or say, hey, I want a new class, right? And so this constructor is what we're going to use. And this is sort of the glue when we're saying, hey, I want a new instance of warrior, our constructor is what's going to run. Can anybody tell me what this is right here? The thing I'm putting in here, I'm highlighting.
The parameters and the argument.
Yeah, right. It's just the arguments. If you think about it, constructor is just a function, right? And so this is the arguments that are needed in order for us to create a warrior, right? So what are some things that we might need in order to create a warrior? We got a name. What else? That you guys are leading this whole warrior thing.
Health,
Health.
attack,
Okay.
defense, speed,
Defense.
agility.
Speed, agility. So, okay, let's do this. We'll do health. Maybe an attack. I'm assuming these are going to just be a numerical value for attack, like 0 to 100. We'll have a 50 attack or whatever. We'll have defense. What else could we do? Anything? I'm looking in the chat here. Shield. Shield's a good one. And maybe a weapon. So what kind of weapon they deal with. Cool. So we're saying, hey, in order for us to create this warrior, we need to have a lot of pieces of information. Now we can adjust this accordingly, but for right now, this is great. Now what this constructor does is, again, it is a function that goes and it creates that specific instance of my warrior class. Can anybody tell me what an instance is? What do I mean by
Kind of like a-
instance?
Kind of like a copy.
Copy,
of-
snapshot.
Yeah, a snapshot of a warrior. It's like a copy, a clone almost.
Yeah.
But it's not an actual. Well, it is, I think.
It's
It-
taking all those attributes and making a specific version of it, right?
Yes, we
So like
are
a-
all
like a blueprint.
instances of human beings, right? You can sort of think about it this way. We're all uniquely human, right? If we had a human class, we are all just different instances of that. And so if you think about it this way, it is just that unique way that we can package and say, okay, this warrior here, right? The warrior of Will or of Albert or of Charlie or of Jacob, right? And we can differentiate and say, okay, Jacob's health might be 50, but his attack is 90, right? Whereas Will's health might be 100, but his attack is like 30, right? That's why I have to have a lot of health because I'm bad at attacking. And so it allows us to uniquely make copies or different instances of my warrior class. And again, it allows us to refer to that specific one. If Will gets hit, I want to know that Will's health is getting taken down, not Jacob's or Jennifer's or Taryn's or anything like that. Now, in order for us to deal with that specific instance, we use a keyword within JavaScript called this. A keyword within JavaScript called this. And so with our constructor, this is our builder, right? This is what is building our human, our instance, not human, sorry, our instance of our warrior. And we're saying, okay, this warrior's name, the one we're talking about, the one that called this constructor, their name is the name being passed through. If I want to deal with this dot health, is the health that's being passed through. We'll have attack, defense, shield, weapon. Right? This is getting every different attribute, or sorry, I should stop saying this. The code here is identifying and saying the specific instance that called this constructor, that name is the name that's being passed through. That name or that health is the health that's being passed through. Cool. And so this allows us, or the code here allows us to create an instance of my warrior. Cool. So outside of my class, if I were to say something like let Will equal, now I want to create a new warrior. So we're saying new. warrior. So this is my class name. And then I have to pass in the information to my constructor, right? The information that my constructor needs in order for it to build this, right? In order for it to create my instance of warrior. Oh, sorry, I'm cracking up in the chat right now. To create this warrior, I need all these pieces of information. So the first, or the name will be Will, the health will be 100, the attack will only be 10. Boo. The defense is 5. I'd suck as a warrior, I guess. My
Dude,
shield is 10, but my weapon is a sword. I am awful. I am gonna get rocked. Cool. Now, if I say let Lee of Roy equal new warrior Lee of Roy, then maybe they've got 90. Their defense is 75 and their shield is 100. Right, first of their kind, for sure. And then sword of Lee is their, maybe their, you know, whatever. So now when this runs, right, this is my blueprint for my warrior. When it gets to line 13, it's creating a new instance or new object of warrior. We're referring to it as Will. And then it's saying my new warrior class. So it's saying go into my class. And when it sees this warrior with a parenthesis, it runs this constructor with the values that are passed in. Cool. Now I could console.log. Let's console.log Will and see what we get. So now I have this warrior, because Will is a warrior, right? It's a warrior class with a name, a health, attack, defense, shield, and sword. Cool. So I've created an instance of my warrior class. Any questions? I'm going to pause there. Any questions on what we just discussed? Anything that's not
Yeah, well-
confusing? Yeah, go ahead.
So is that called an object then, what you
Mhm.
just created?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep, this is a warrior object or instance. Instance and object are kind of interchangeable.
And then in Python, it's a library, but okay, so we're in, but that's an object. Okay, I'm just trying to wrap my head around because with Python, there's objects and that's like encapsulates a bigger thing, but that's an object in JavaScript, what you just made.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
yeah, when you put them side by side, they're actually pretty similar,
Yeah.
sort of.
What's a library in Python? I thought we had constructors too.
You do your dunder init. And then you did self instead of this.
Okay. That's okay.
Yeah, like in Python, you had the self dot first name, self dot last name, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Same. Same.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Cool. So these are my attributes of my warrior. Now it'd be pretty lame if all we did was create attributes. Now, before we do that, actually, I want to point out we can have attributes that our constructor doesn't take in, right? So we could say something like this dot, we should say this dot, what's an attribute that maybe is just kind of a base that we could have?
Base.
Base. Speed.
Um,
I like that.
Oh, speed. Yeah.
I'm gonna be super fast because I suck at everything else. So I'm gonna be 79 in speed. And so here's an attribute that by default, every warrior, I guess it's not even me, this is every warrior. Every warrior, because we didn't pass it in, every warrior is gonna have a speed of 79. So maybe just warriors are super fast compared to maybe something else. That is, you know, the slower but more powerful, or faster even, but way less powerful, something like that. So this is a default attribute that everybody's going to get, right? And so even though Lee of Roy is way OP compared to me, way more overpowered than me, they are still going to have the same speed because anytime this constructor runs, we're passing this unique information, but there's also this attribute here that is speed. Yeah, exactly. Can't kill what you can't catch. If you can dodge a warrior, you can dodge a ball. I'm dead. That's funny. Cool. So there are those default values, and this can be a Boolean, it can be a number, it could be a string, it could be a array. So if I say this dot pets, we'll just say this, and then maybe I've got an array of pets here, right? And so maybe I could have multiple pets in there. But that's a value, right? Just wanted to show that we can have values in there. Cool. Now, again, it would be pretty lame if all we could do is create an instance, or just create a warrior, but they couldn't do anything. So let's actually do something, right? Maybe I've got some sort of functionality that I desperately, as Will, need to work out because my health is fine, but my attack is bad, right? So maybe I want to create some sort of functionality that I can make my attack even better because I'm slacking and I've got a big fight with Lee of Roy here in the next week, right? And so maybe what I could do is I could create a method or some sort of functionality onto my warrior class. So how would I do that? Does anybody know? How would I create this method? And a method is interchangeable with a function. The only difference is a method's associated with a class, whereas a function is not. So if I say function or method, it's the same thing, but if it's associated with this class, it's technically a method. So how would I create that method?
The only thing that's popping in my brain is the class method decorator, but that's in Python.
That's in Python. Yeah.
Yeah. I can't remember JavaScript. Hold on.
Anybody else remember how to make a method in a class? Way simpler
Well, I
than
mean,
you
to
guys
make,
are.
to make a function, you just type out function and then you give
Yeah.
a class name.
Yeah. So
That's how it
we
works
don't
here.
even, yeah, we don't even need to write function here when we're dealing with a class. All we would do is maybe I call this workout. And so then
I was
what
way
I'm going to-
overthinking that.
Yeah, it's way simpler. And maybe when I do this, whenever Will works out, his attack goes up by 10, defense goes up by 10, and his shield goes up by 10. Right? It is still within my class, so I want to make sure that that's knowledge. The class ends here, my warrior class. It does not go in my constructor, but it still is within my class, right? It's encapsulated within my class of warrior. And so I have this new method called workout. So if I say now will dot workout, and then I console log will again, let's see how this works, right? If I run this, I get Will with an attack of 10, defense, shield. Now I get Will with an attack of 20, defense is 15, shield is 20. Now, one thing I want to point out is if I were to console.log Lee of Roy, and this is a big thing here, and I still have Will work out, I'm going to have, oh, whoops, sorry. Whenever you highlight something and do code runner, it's just going to run the code that's highlighted. And so that's what is the issue there. Sorry about that. If you ever run into it. Cool. So it shows Will. It shows Lee with the OP stuff. Will worked out, right? So then now my stuff is up, but you can see that Lee is still the same, right? And so what is powerful about this is now when I'm dealing with this dot attack, what it's doing is it's saying, okay, which instance called this method? The instance of Will called workout. And so it brings Will's attack up by 10. It brings Will's defense up by 10, and it brings Will's shield up by 10, not Leroy's. And so that's a huge thing, right? It's saying, okay, only this instance, only this object is what it's using or calling that method. And so this keyword here now allows me to, allows me to just affect that one object, not all of the instances of warrior. Does that make sense? Any questions on that? I've kind of gone through a lot, so I want to make sure we're all good to go. Any questions on this?
So is this how they played the first computer games that you see from like the 80s where they would just type and say, go into this room, and that's what they're basically what their first video game characters were just these class
Classes.
objects.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is like a lot of life. Like a lot of development is just object-oriented programming and dealing with classes and manipulating them. Like
Ah,
even
sweet.
now with games, like if you have that, it's the same idea.
Yeah, the code of Minecraft is eerily similar to what we're seeing right here.
Super basic. Yeah.
Yeah. Except there's a lot of JSON, which is it breaks my brain if I look at it too long.
Yeah. JSON is just JavaScript object notation. So you're just dealing with objects just like this. So it is this, it's just way more complicated. But you're still doing the same sort of thing.
Way
That's
more
how
curly
AP
braces.
Yeah, way more curly boys, but that's how you deal with like when we're dealing with APIs, oftentimes you're gonna get it as a JSON response. And so we'll practice some of that. Okay. So we did work out. Maybe I want to add a pet, right? I want to add a pet. I want to add my pet Charlie, my dog. What could I do to add this pet here? Any ideas? How could I add a pet to Will?
Would you
Gonna
just
pass
add
it
to
in.
the let will?
I'm sorry, two people. Could
Or
somebody
would you just
repeat it?
add it after sword?
After sword? I could, but what if I wanted a method that added a pet?
Hmm.
I don't want to go as far as doing two classes, but what if I just had a method that, well, and let's think about what are we doing, right? If I'm adding a pet, what are we manipulating here?
So you're adding a new method to the class warrior, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
That
it would just-
allows any warrior to add in a pet. Or to
yeah,
add a
so
pet.
just call it add pet with parentheses, and it takes in a string, and
Yep.
then it'd be this dot pet equals string.
So remember,
Oh,
pets
oh, it's an
is
array.
is array, right? And so what we could
Okay.
do is I can create a method called add pet where I pass in the actual pet. In this case, it'll just be a string, right? But I see that Jacob said we could have a class of pet and have Charlie be a pet, and then we could actually add in the object within my warrior. And maybe we'll do that after this and show, okay, we could actually do this and it be a-okay. But for right now, we'll just do a string. And so we're saying this dot pets. So we're saying the instance that calls this method, they've got a pets attribute. Because it's an array, I want to push or add to the end of my array the pet that I pass in. So if I were to say will dot add pet, dragon sounds dope. Sorry, Charlie. Oh, cute puppy, but dragon sounds way cool. So I'm going to add in a dragon. So if I were to console.log will, we will now see that Will has a pet. I've got a dragon.
That is Leroy's one weakness.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I have to do it. If I'm going to be that weak, I got to at least have a dragon. What are we doing here? Come on. Cool. Now let's actually do that. I think that that's a good idea for us to kind of expand on this. Normally you would have like a model or you'd have your own JS file that has, your different classes. Right now we don't. So let's go ahead and create a class for pet, right? So we're going to say class pet. Oops. I'm gonna maybe have not all this, but maybe I've got a name and a type. And what's a third thing we could add? I don't want to like have my pets attack because yeah, don't want to do that. But what's something else we could add? We have a name, a type.
Throw back to CISO's class. Is derpy true or
Is
false?
derpy. So DEERPY?
DERPY.
Derpy. Cool. And we'll just say derp. And so up here in my constructor, I pass in derp. Cool. Now, one thing to remember when we're dealing with a class, this value here must match this value here. But it does not have to match this value here. I'm gonna say that again. This value on the right must match the value in my constructor or the name. What I mean by that is the name, right? Name, type. These must match and these must match. But notice this does not match this, right? That's okay, right? This in theory could be called unicorn and cupcake and rainbow, right? But we still call them name type is derpy. So any of that, or these must match because we're referring to the parameter that's being passed through. This can be anything we want it to be. These are just my attribute names. Does that make sense?
Yeah, wouldn't the parameter for is derpy, wouldn't that be a Boolean? So true or false that we're passing in?
Can be. Could be anything we want it to be, right? In this case, right now, it doesn't, we don't know what it is, right? We haven't set any sort of
Okay.
like true or false. It could be anything, right? In theory, I could put the number 45 and my value for is derpy would equal 45 for that instance.
Okay, cool.
I see something in the chat. I'm not sure what's happening with Hans and Taryn. Did I do something dumb? Okay.
No, sorry,
think
it's an
so.
inside joke from our class with CISO. Every
Oh.
time we use the word derpy, someone asks, "What is derpy?" Like
Oh,
without
okay.
fail.
Okay. Okay, good. I thought it was like, who's gonna ask it? Who's gonna ask the question? I thought I was like, did I make some sort of bad drawing?
yeah.
or
I was
something?
there.
No,
I
sorry.
was stressed.
I'm so
Woo, I
sorry.
was stressed. No, you're good. You're fine. I love it.
I
That's cool.
was very close to asking what derpy was, but I was like, I'm gonna hold off.
Yeah. Okay. Every
Oh,
time
dude.
I think of derpy, I think of Coco, the movie, and the little dog that's got like the tongue out. That's what I think of as derpy. Okay. So now we created this class pet, right? That's got a constructor, and maybe right now there's no methodology with that. Oops. Cool. Let me save that. And so what I can do is I can say let Charlie equal new pet, Charlie, dog, and true. He is absolutely derpy, right? And so what I can do then is instead of just adding in a string for my pet, right? A string that's being pushed here, I can just push that object into my list or to my array, sorry. And so now when I run this and I console log will, I also get pet name Charlie, dog, derp. This is saying that it's a pet instance of a class, right? It is a specific pet instance that has the attributes of Charlie, dog, and is derpy is true.
There's some JSON for you too.
Yep. Because now I've got a list within my object that is able to grab some information. So let's get a little bit complicated. Let's pretend I wanted to go through my warrior and I wanted to get my warrior's pet's name. How would I do that? Knowing what I know now, how could I do that?
Will.pet.name.
Okay, let's try it.
.com.
I'm just gonna type will.pet.name.
Inside the console log.
Okay. Log will.pet.name.
Oh, yeah, it's gotta be
It says
pets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And then a
So
pets
it's
is an
gonna be-
array. So you gotta call in the index, right?
yeah.
Exactly,
So-
right?
Pet with
So
the
let's-
index of 0.name.
Yeah, yeah. So let's try that. Let's try pets of index 0 dot name. Let's try that. And if I run this, look at Charlie.
Yay.
You got him.
There you go. Let's say
Nice.
that I wanted, let's say that I have another one. Let Marley, my pup, we had to put her down last week, so it's no fun, but let's create her in her memory. Create Marley, and then I'm going to add a pet. I'm gonna add Marley. Cool. Now, how would I get, or what if I wanted to create a method that got me all of my pets' names? What would I do?
Go back into the warrior class to
Yeah.
create the method.
Okay,
All pets,
sure.
and it would see out the entire pet array to pets. Yeah, this dot pets.
Okay. But I just wanted the name.
Oh, this dot pets dot name.
What's a simple way I could do it? Let's just, again, I want to talk about not doing this because this isn't going to necessarily do it. If I wanted to brute force it, my biggest thing would be just get it working first and foremost. Might not be the most efficient. We can always become more efficient, but we got to get it to work. Let's think about what we're doing here. If I've got a array of pets, what could I do? How do I go through each one of those? What's a tool I can use? Yeah, I could
For
just use-
loops.
I could use map or for loop, right? Let's use a for loop because again, let's just go as basic as we can. And so I could say for, and I'm going to say let I equal 0. As long as I is less than, I'll just keep it here. As long as I is less than this dot pets dot length, because remember, this dot pets is a array on that warrior. And I want to go through, so I want to get all of my pets and I want to iterate, right? I want to start at the beginning and I'm going to keep going. And all I'm doing in that is I am console logging this dot pets of I. So it starts at 0, and then in this case, it's going to go to 1 dot name. And so if I wanted to get that, all I have to do is say will dot all pets, because it is the instance of my warrior object that we refer to as will. We're going to iterate through all pets, or we're going to go, it's going to call all pets, which then iterates through my pets array, and it grabs that pet's name. Cool. And then I run it, and I get Charlie Marley. Great. Makes sense. Any questions on this, on the things that we can do in the build? Somebody, Hans, this makes so much more sense 8 months after Web Fundamentals. Absolutely. Absolutely. Helps when you start understanding a little bit more, and then you're like, oh, going back to this, the thing that I thought was so hard, way easier. Good, Benjamin. I'm glad that we're having some breakthroughs. That's awesome. Okay. Let's do, okay. I don't want to do that. Okay. Anything else we want our warrior to do? I'm trying to think through what we'll need for singly linked list. I think we're gonna be okay. Other than that. But any other things we want our warrior to do, or any questions you guys have when we're dealing with this class instance?
Maybe skills.
Skills? Okay. What would you like to do with skills?
Make an array. Different
Make an
skills.
array of skills. Okay. Should it be empty?
Yeah, starting off, I guess.
Yeah, let's do
Or-
that. Yeah, I think on that.
Yeah, because you learn skills, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, crushing blow, dude.
There
Yeah.
you go. Crushing
Is that-
blow,
Okay.
finisher.
So
Execute.
well, I can't do that because my strength's only like 10. So that's what Leroy is gonna be doing to me.
You get your opponent down to like 10% health, you could do it.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Benjamin asked, what is autocomplete? It's my GitHub Copilot. That's what's doing that. Okay, so anybody who maybe hasn't spoken yet, or maybe is having some breakthroughs, let's kind of apply that. How can I create a method that adds in a skill for me? Maybe somebody who hasn't talked yet, or maybe somebody who, again, is having a breakthrough, and the best way to confirm. Benjamin. Yeah, the same way as adding a pet, right? That's it. It's pretty simple. You can see that now when we're dealing with classes, it's not as complicated as we thought. It's kind of as basic as it is. So let's add a skill. So we're going to add a skill. We're going to take in the skill. And then we say this dot skills because we're referring to the attribute of skills. Now I want to push the skill that I am passing. So anybody want to tell me what skill? I'm just trying to get ready. I'm getting my dogs. I'm getting dragons. Play dead. That is absolutely the skill. That's funny. Okay, I'll do that. That's funny. That's really funny, actually. Will dot.
We
add
love you,
skill.
Hans.
Oh, that's very funny. Okay, what is the skill? I'm putting it in all caps too. Okay, play dead. So now, if I just say console dot log will, let's run this. I get Charlie Marley, great. And I get this skills play dead. So now I have a way to defeat Leroy. I just don't. I just literally play dead. Maybe Leroy's intelligence, not as high, runs away, bang, bang, gets his Achilles, and then now it's gone. The other thing to point out too is you see that when we have objects in here, we can still have these, we have a array of objects. This is a very, very, very common thing within development when we're dealing with object-oriented programming. Just like Shane was saying, when we get JSON responses, a lot of the time it's something like this, where you're going to have an array of dictionaries or objects. It's going to be very, very, very similar to that. So being able to iterate through these, understand how to grab this information is going to be an important skill to have, just when you're dealing with APIs especially. Awesome breathing. Oh my gosh, you guys are insane. Okay. Any other questions on classes? Can anybody now, I guess looking at this, what would be an example of abstraction? What would be an example of abstraction with dealing with this object-oriented programming?
All of this part, is it that part? This dot name, this That helps.
Yeah, maybe the constructor too. So if we're thinking about like a user doesn't need to understand how the constructor works in order to create a warrior. They just, maybe you have a game or you're on your computer and you just go in and it's cool. It creates a warrior. Absolutely. And then the underworkings of even this, that in itself is abstraction within the abstraction, right? Because we don't know what JavaScript does under the hood to deal with this keyword, but you're exactly right. Yeah, that's a great example, Austin. Can anybody tell me what would be an example of encapsulation?
All those class methods for sure, because they're
Yes.
within the warrior
All of
class.
these, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Great. That's awesome. Yeah. We don't really have an example of inheritance here because we didn't have like a class that inherited from another class. It's not important for when we're dealing with singly linked lists. We don't really, again, have something with like polymorphism because when you're dealing with polymorphism and inheritance are sort of similar in the sense of, I'm inheriting, a sound if we had a pet or an animal, and then maybe we had like a dog and a dragon class, they both make a sound. They're just very different, right? It's the ability to roar versus bark. That's an idea of polymorphism. So we didn't have those two, but again, abstraction, we're able to see how that's working within our object-oriented programming. We see the encapsulation, everything that has to do with the warrior, the methods, the abilities of the warrior, the attributes of the warrior, all encapsulated within our warrior class. Cool. Any other questions? That's all I've got for today. Again, this classes are going to be very important when we start dealing with singly linked lists because we're gonna have to create classes for our nodes. And so that'll be fun. And we can start building out some singly linked lists. But any questions on classes and kind of this week's material before we end for the week? Awesome. Good. I'm glad, Hans. I'm glad it was golden. It was fun. Thanks for the laughs, friends. That's all I have. I'll stop the recording here and I will see you all next week. For those that have just sent me in your proposal, I'll make sure I run through those real quick. But other than that, take care, friends.
All right. Thanks, Will. Thanks, guys.